David Jordan is the private advisor to CEOs, specialising in creating results through strategic innovation. Welcome to this week's segment.
One of the major innovations that companies are investing in to try and understand the customer, to identify market trends and opportunities, is big data. However, one of the biggest problems with big data is big data records what the customer did. It's not telling you why the customer did it or what problem they were trying to solve. Whilst I'm involved in IT and I understand the benefits of big data, one of the things I keep talking to customers about is what is the objectives, what are you hoping to get from using big data? How is it going to align with your corporate objectives? If we come back to the importance of innovating to solve the customer's problems, then how is big data telling you what that customer's problem is? But big data is telling me that most of my customers are buying red kettles. How is it telling me that another company is bringing in a coffee pod machine to solve the customer's need for coffee? It's a big trap of big data is a lot of information, but what are you hoping to extract from it? When I see a lot of companies investing in big data, it becomes a big fishing expedition to try and find something in all this big sea of data. And few companies actually get real returns for the amount of investment that they've put into big data. But if you're smart, you can land a big fish from a small pond rather than a small fish in a big pond. Narrow what you're doing with big data and what you're trying to achieve out of it. Try and set you in the theme of it. I'll mention about a company that we consulted to who are a book retailer. It was a very interesting conversations that we would have with the editors who are the product managers of such an organization. They were always very excited about an author who readers enjoy because they would increase sales. So the more famous authors, the greater the sales. However, we challenged them to actually say, what, as a book retailer, what is the problem we are solving for the customer? And when you think about it, customers buy a book because they want something to read. We're solving the problem of them wanting something to read. Now, it might seem a fine distinction of we're selling a book and the customer wants something to read, but just changing the way we think about it actually increases the sales of the organization. Now, I'll take the next step is to say, how is big data used to help that out? And the best example would be Amazon. Now, Amazon uses big data to understand what authors most readers like to read, and they do use it to do things like pricing the books accordingly. However, Amazon actually uses big data to solve the customer's problem. When you go onto Amazon to buy a book, it's because you want a book to read now. And if you want to read a book now and your favorite author hasn't got a book available, what do you do? Amazon sits there and says, right, this is the kind of books that you like reading, and we'll compare those reading habits with someone similar, with a range of other people who have similar reading habits, and actually come up with recommendations for books. They're helping me to find a book that I might like to read. So that's a very good example of big data actually driving sales. So it's very important when you're looking at innovations like big data to really focus on using big data not to understand what the customer has done in the past, but to focus on how to solve the customer's problem. And that's where you'll drive profit and growth from innovation.
If you don't have a copy of David's book, The CEO Innovation Blueprint, you can get that now at freeceoblueprintbook.com.au. That's freeceoblueprintbook.com.au. www.bookreach.com.au.